Welcome to episode 47 of our Friday Fitcast, and we are blessed to have the one and only Megan Dimartino. And for those of you who don't know who Megan is, she is the go-to. She is very famous for really her industry. She's the leading industry in when it comes to regenerative, facials, exosomes, stem cells. You want to talk about someone who really knows their stuff and someone that we're going to dig in with. I do want to first of all mention that we're very excited to partner up with Megan and Novita Spa for the Storm Classic 2022, the fourth annual, which is going to be the biggest. It's going to be the best, and we're very excited to have you. So first of all, Megan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're going to have a little fun. I love it. I love it. Well, I would like for everyone to, just get to know you a little bit. We've gotten the chance to get to know each other over a year now on Clubhouse. And for those of you who don't know, it's a social audio app. And we've been studying each other a little bit. And one of the things I was really impressed with you is not only the way that you carry yourself, but how you conduct business. You conduct it in a very ethical and forthright way, but you also have attention to detail that nobody else has in this space and in this industry. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got started here.
Well, my story is long, but technically we're both in Texas, you and I. I live in the Austin, Texas area, and you're in the Houston area, but I'm a New York girl, Storm, deep in the heart of Texas, and I've been in Texas for quite a while now. So really it's home, but I'm still a New York girl. And I was brought up by a very creative a couple, my parents, mother and father, but my dad was an entrepreneur, and he was first generation immigrant from Italy. My grandfather, Alberto Dimartino, immigrated to the United States when he was 16 to New York, and he became a barber. And after time, so to speak, he worked at a fancy hotel on where the Madison Square Garden is now. And so some very wealthy guy moved he out to Long Island so he'd have his personal barber. And my dad and his brothers worked in the shop, as he called it. But that my grandfather loved doing ladies' hair, and so that was my DNA beginning of the beauty biz, my grandfather with his barber and then salon. And my father, after the Second World War, got a job with a large paper company. And one of the products he was selling was wet strength tissue for underbedding. So it was basically hospital supplies. And this tissue, he said, I bet this would work for perming. So what guy would know, Storm, about perming? But he did, because he worked in the barbershop / salon. And so he cut it up and brought it to salons in the New York City area. We lived on Long Island. And he said, try this. And it was disposable. It was very inexpensive. And hence, us children were packing end papers in their dispensing boxes when I was a young kid. So I was brought up, and you say about, business and structure, but I was brought up by Ray Dimartino, and I wouldn't say from a spirit of excellence, but yet, he didn't speak about that, but everything was from that place. And so, as a dad, as a family person, as, holidays and on and on. So I was brought up by my father and mother. My mother was a very creative woman as well, but Ray was the entrepreneur. And so I knew from a very, very young age that I was going to create something. Now, what that was, I hadn't a clue, but I was the kid that always was doing the plays and creating things, the not only lemonade stands, but other ideas of entrepreneurial spirit. And so I was doing that from a very young age. I thought as time went on, I was going to be a fashion designer. But God had a different plan. But I stayed in that wheelhouse of beauty and that dynamic. And then in the early 80s, I went to work for my father and his business. And I worked with them for 5 years. And I decided during that season, I knew I was not going to be there forever, but he wanted to add some products to the beauty division, which were the NRAPs, private label NRAPs. During the 70s, he developed dental and medical laboratory paper disposable related products. So he said, come and help us, and so forth. So I moved from Connecticut commuting to Manhattan in the beauty industry, in the fashion industry, and went out to the eastern end of Long Island and worked for them for 5 years. But I was able to see and learn about the beauty industry. Now, people have no concept of this, because today we see a quote unquote spa on every corner, right? You see that, skincare spa type of thing, but that didn't exist in the early 90s, didn't exist. In states across the United States, there was not a separate license for estheticians. That means a skincare specialist. But in the 80s, when I worked for Rayson, Ray is my father, Son is my brother Michael, the nail industry as we know it today, the acrylic and all of that started happening. And so we created a nail towel, a non-woven disposable nail towel for the acrylic industry, Creative Nail, OPI, and others. And so I learned that whole dynamic. And I said, the next thing is going to be, I didn't say spa because it didn't exist, but that,
Go ahead.
hello.
Sorry about that.
But that, skincare and that product was going to exist, or happen rather. But there was no Google, nothing. There was no website. There was no Safari to, nothing. So I needed to learn. So I was recruited. This is how I got to Texas. I was recruited by Alcon Laboratories, which is a pharmaceutical company in Fort Worth, Texas. And they had just bought a lab that did hair care products. Alcon, if anyone wears contacts, knows Alcon because of the contact solution. But they had just bought this lab with hair care products and wanted to repackage and reposition it. So that is my background of sales and marketing. And so they recruited me and I moved to Fort Worth, Texas. But I specifically took that job because I wanted to hang out with sophisticated chemists to learn about ingredients and how products were put together. I knew I wasn't going to be with them forever because I had that entrepreneurial Ray Dimartino spirit, but I wanted to learn. And so I did. And then in 1992, 30 years ago, oh my God, I left Alcon in 91, did some consulting, and then, during that season, put together my first brand called Glycolic. And we were a pioneer, truly a pioneer in the glycolic acid, alpha hydroxy, result-oriented skincare dynamic that truly started what we know as a spa/medical spa today.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about, because a lot of times, especially larger lines these days, more commercial type lines, they're using a lot of the ingredients that you pioneered. You
Yes.
were really kind of that trendsetter and on the edge before that went to mass market. And and that's one of the things that our audience doesn't know is not only are you in the health and wellness, it's fitness, it's looking good, it's feeling good, it's knowing the chemistry behind it.
Yes.
You have that background and expertise, and you speak from a point of authority. When you do speak, industry leaders listen to you. And I think that's where the missing piece is when you're saying now, and I love what you said. You said, look, there's a spa in every corner. Well, what makes you different? You've just explained why you are different is because you're 2 steps ahead of them. When they're learning the stuff today, you've already got the stuff 2 years down the road that they're going to be unrolling next year and the year after. So what specifically, you talked about glycolic a little bit.
Glycolic.
You sound it so much better than I do, and that's why you're the expert and I'm the amateur. What has that really done for you when it comes to your product line? When you first discovered that, how has that been unrolled to the general public and around the world?
Well, an interesting fact, Storm, in 1992, when I launched Glycolic, well, let me back up. I was able to glean from information because I was inside a publicly traded company. Remember, there was no Google, there was nothing, no place to go to get information. And so I was working and there at Alcon, and there was this periodical that came out, a big, information piece quarterly, but then weekly and monthly. And so I read in this Rose report that Avon, like the Avon lady, now remember, this is probably 90, Avon was going to launch a single product called Anew, had a name already, and it was based on glycolic acid. So my marketing brain said, this glycolic acid has to be something, because Avon, and this is really holds together today as well, but Avon at that point had never marketed a single product other than Skin So Soft, which is a bug repellent that had a name. It was always just a generic, the Avon lady in the catalog. So I marched myself up to the head chemist at Alcon, Raymond Bollinger, and said, tell me about this glycolic acid. And he looked at me like, I don't know, and he said, he didn't use the word exfoliation. He said, well, it's been used for years for exfoliation and, eczema and psoriasis. I said, but he's also talking about alpha chains and beta chains. I'll never forget it. And I said, stop, you're talking to me. We had become good buddies, so I was able to talk to him this way. And he said, well, let's say exfoliation. Oh, okay. And so basically speaking, glycolic acid is a chemical exfoliation. It's from the alpha hydroxy fruit acid family. So it's a family, like you might, you have a family. I don't know if you have siblings, but if you have siblings like I do, we're all the Dimartino kids, but we're all unique people. So the alpha hydroxy family, because there's similarities between the Dimartino kids, but we're all unique. So glycolic acid from sugarcane, lactic from milk, tannic from grapes, citric acid, malic from apples. There are others, but those are the most widely used. But glycolic acid is the most effective AHA, you might see, alpha hydroxy, because it has the smallest molecular structure, therefore the greatest ability to penetrate through the epidermal layer. And that's very important because we are all cells, right?
Right.
You've heard, the skin is the largest organ, absolutely fact, but the skin has many layers. So the top layer of the skin is the epidermal layer. The stratum cornea is the top layer of it, and that's the protective layer. Okay, so if I took a piece of tape, Storm, and took your cells and put them under a microscope, or anybody in our audience, those cells, that top layer looks like brick and mortar with thousands of little holes. Those holes are your pores, and the brick and mortar are the dead skin cells, that build up. So you can have the most effective hydrating ingredient, but if it doesn't penetrate through that wall, it's lubricating that wall. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And I know that we had a few people join us. For those of you who don't know who we're talking to, we are talking to the Megan Dimartino, and she is the leading expert. And we're going to dig into some of your treatments because I know that you are the CEO, and it's not the chief executive officer. You're the chief evolve officer. With Novita Spa, and you're based out of Georgetown, Texas. So for those of you who are in Texas, I know Casey just joined. He is from Oklahoma. He is one of our professional competitors, and he's done every show essentially since we've started. So you might see him there. You'll also see a lot of ladies who join us here in and out. More importantly, though, a lot of our audience, they either like the industry and fitness and they don't compete, and their general health and wellness, they always want to look better. They always want to at least glow or radiate. I think when you're talking about epidermis, you're talking about skin cells, you're talking about, getting to the root of the issue, not just topically. But when you're penetrating that wall and actually getting the real hydration, it makes your skin look full. I know collagen is a part of that. I know exosomes are a part of that. So for those of you who are following, you can go to megandimartino.com or you can go to novitaspa.com. And those are some of the treatments that we're going to get into in here in just a second. I know a lot of you, if you have questions, Megan's Instagram is probably the best way to direct message her. So it's at official Megan Dimartino. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Very
absolutely.
Cool. Well, here's what I want to dig into. Let's say I don't know anything about skincare. I don't know anything about really good treatments for me. So I'm 49 years old. I've got wrinkles. I've got dry skin. I wash my face, but I probably don't exfoliate as much. Gotten a few facials here and there because my wife said, go get some facials. What are some of the treatments in Novita Spa? Why did you start Novita Spa? And why is that different from any other spa on the corner of any other city?
Well, really, the truth is, one, we know what, like you said earlier, we know what we're doing. Why I call myself the Chief Evolve Officer is my job is to look into down the road, as you said earlier, of what's available. What does the consumer want? Not just because we think it's a big ticket item. What does the consumer want, and what will make a difference for the consumer? Because we're all consumers. Remember, I had the product line is a major portion of this whole, because result orientation, because I'm sure you would agree, Storm, people want results. They want to look good, as you said earlier, feel good, are good. So regardless of aging, regardless of acne, rosacea, dry skin, hyperpigmentation, which is sun damage, regardless of what is going on superficially or topically, you need to really address two things. Number one, I always ask people and say, I don't even wash my face. Oh, really? I said, well, do you brush your teeth? Oh, yes. AM, PM? Oh, of course. Same difference. Meaning that if you're not taking care of your skin at home, you can go for a facial every week if you wanted to. Visualize never brushing your teeth, AM, PM, and then going to the dentist every 6 months or so forth. You'd be in a big fat mess, right? So it's that synergy of home care and treatments, but this home care has to work, or what's the point of that? And then treatments that are customized to the need of the person. So it's really taking the time to do a very thorough skin analysis as well, meaning the onboarding, so to speak, of the client, that intake form, getting to know them, not just having them fill out a form, but really looking at it, reading it, talking to them about what medication they're taking, because the skin is the largest organ, and it is the largest organ of elimination. So what goes in must come out. So that's not just what you eat or not eat, or drink or not drink, but as I said, medication, stress, everything that's going on in your life affects your skin. So as an esthetician, a skincare specialist, you must know about that person. And so this is the difference, my friend. It is then you go to, and I'm not going to name any names, but if you go into some of these chains, the turnover is huge. You might have enjoyed a facial with someone and then call in, a month, 2 months, and that person's gone because they just are not trained properly. So that's why I call myself the Chief Evolve Officer, because I'm here to help the whole team to understand what the consumer, the client, the guest needs, because we treat each and every person as a guest, because they have options to go elsewhere, but we want them to come to us to see true results with a value and keep coming back to us. So I hope that
Absolutely.
answered your question.
Oh, it definitely does. And what's interesting is we have new folks joining us. We have a lot of people who are athletic. And so I know that there's dry skin, there's oily skin, there's all types of skin.
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend for someone who is in the gym a lot? Maybe they are able to shower once a day, maybe twice a day, and they maybe dry out their skin a little bit more. What do you typically see with more active people? Is it on a case by case basis, or do you see some commonalities where maybe certain treatments might be more beneficial for them?
Well, I'm going to really start to sound like a broken record here, but the point of the point is that exfoliation is vital for the function of the skin, regardless of skin type. We're all aging from the moment we're born to the moment we pass from this planet. So from the standpoint of aging, from dry skin, or, meaning from that systemically dry skin to oily, acne-prone skin, it's all the same. The health of the pore, the health of the skin is predicated by the health of the pore, and exfoliation is vital for the function of the skin. Now, there's a piece of that everyone needs to understand, because when you hear the word exfoliation, you think of mechanical exfoliation from, honey almond oatmeal scrub, jojoba beads, and the like. You feel the medium. That's mechanical exfoliation. What was so revolutionary about chemical exfoliation people hear the word chemical. Ooh, chemical. No, it's not like a deep chemical peel. It's that dissolving of that wall, dissolving of that thickened epidermis. Because whether you're, so for instance, like you said about oily skin, the sebaceous gland is going to overproduce because it's seeking hydration. So if that wall is so thick and nothing can penetrate through and get it going and stabilize it, I'm talking about the sebaceous gland, it's going to continue to overproduce. Then that sebum comes up to the pore, clogs it, and that's when you get a comedone or a breakout. Does that make sense?
Totally. And what's interesting is, yeah, a lot of people don't understand that, exfoliation is the key. And you don't sound like a broken record. A lot of the times when we go to compete, what we have to do is we have to exfoliate heavily for the first week and a half right before competition, because we have to get all the dead skin cells off. When we do a spray tan, that has to absorb in and that has to look right. If you have got a bunch of dead skin cells, or you have a barrier, we're taught to use coffee grounds for exfoliation, and then we're taught to use gold dial because there's no parabens in it, so it doesn't block the absorption of that pigment, or to give that deep pigment color. So what are some of the treatments that you find are very popular for kind of the general, because I know that you have a couple of different packages, but more importantly, if you can talk about some of the treatments that you specialize in that maybe other spa treatments don't, because I think that really sets you apart.
So back to the whole structure. So basically, again, understanding exfoliation and the two types. Mechanical, you're talking about coffee grounds, so that's mechanical, obviously. And so there's two types of exfoliation. Well, we have a fabulous alpha beta peel, beta hydroxy or salicylic acid, and works beautifully together with the alphas and the other AHAs. So we do and it's a lightening, brightening peel, and it can be done, from the top of the head to the tip of the toes. So we do a lot of that entire body exfoliation and treatments with it. And we do have a mechanical product called Body Glow, which is a salt glow body polish. So we layer that together. But we also do a lot of infrared light therapy. I'm a major proponent of infrared light because photon light therapy helps ingredients penetrate deeply into the mitochondria, which is the brain of the cell. And so so it's all about exfoliation, penetration, and then stimulation of collagen and elastin, because that's where collagen and elastin are formed. It's not that they go away as you age, but they become very lethargic. And so they're not active and stimulated. And so that is what light therapy does. It also works beautifully with rosacea. We're in an epidemic of rosacea, and it's caused by, well, first off, it's very hereditary, but it's exacerbated or enhanced, stimulated by stress. Hello? How many people are in stress? But stress from, different food, spicy foods and alcohol and so forth. So light therapy is a major staple of our array of treatments. Microneedling is also a treatment that we do a lot of. And microneedling basically, and there's different ranges of it, because we're a medical spa and we're work with a medical director, and she actually does a lot of microneedling herself with us. But with that said, under the auspices of, we do a lot of microneedling. And you mentioned exosomes, so we do work with microneedling and exosomes. So microneedling basically opens the channels of the skin. Again, it's all about, as I said earlier, exfoliation and penetration. But that the microneedling, micro small, opens that channel and helps the ingredients to penetrate in. So about 2019, we started doing work in our medical spa structure, regenerative stem cell therapy, Storm, but not aesthetically yet. We started doing that from a bone and joint, as it's called, but also from a systemic standpoint with IVs, intranasal catheter for early stages of dementia, also tinnitus and vertigo, and then COPD with nebulizers. And so we've been doing cutting edge work with stem cell. And then COVID and lockdown happened. And so I put that off. We were just about to start doing work with exosomes, which are birth product. They're not the umbilical cord, but they're in the Wharton's jelly, and it's part of the birth product. And so that is just a tremendous carrier, meaning doing it hand in glove with microneedling. But we do microneedling with other products, that hyaluronic acid, for instance, which is the most hydrating ingredient on the planet. You mentioned earlier that I have these ingredients in these home care products. I've had them for years in these home care products. Why? Because I learned about hyaluronic acid back in the 80s with Raymond Bollinger and the other chemists, because they're not new. It's just how they're being used. Because hyaluronic acid was used for eye surgery. Hello, Alcon Laboratories manufactured products for the ophthalmologist and the dermatologist. So I learned about hyaluronic acid years ago. So it's been in my formulations for many, many years. And so it's about understanding. I go back to this. It's about understanding the need of the person and what specific treatment will work for them. Hope that answered.
It totally does. I just heard hyaluronic acid last year for the first time, and you've known about it since the 80s.
Yes.
Let's say that because we have a worldwide audience here. We've got people in the US, we have people in Canada, we have people in Europe that tune in, and some of them watch the replays, some of them watch live. If I'm a guy or a girl, by the way, just out of curiosity, a short answer, do you have more women or do you have more men? What is your growing market right now?
That's a great question. Really good question. And that gets back to that word evolve. I have found in the last, to answer the black and white answer is obviously more women. But what I have found is, you said growth, and more men of all ages, not just the metrosexual, the sexual guy that, 20s and so forth. It's all men. We have physicians coming for Botox and fillers and the like. And we do that, of course. But it's really an interesting thing, because more and more men are recognizing, and I truly believe, and you mentioned Clubhouse earlier. If you think about the folks that are on Clubhouse, that are really active on Clubhouse, wouldn't you agree that it's really the mean age is really more 40s and up?
I would totally agree with that.
Yes. And so what's also interesting about that app is it's audio, so you don't see the person, but we're all coming out into the world again. So more and more people are recognizing, and another factor during COVID, and this is a statistic, that because people have been on so many Zooms, they have been watching themselves for the first time, saying, holy crow, I need to do something about this.
Got the crow's feet, got the mean, the mean line.
Yes. Yes. And so we're doing more and more consultations. They're a little more, men are a little more, I don't want to say conservative, but they want to know more, which I love, because I want to educate a person to know why they should do something and why they should continue doing it, because it's not a one and done thing. It's not.
Let's say, and that's what I loved, because I had a feeling the men's market was going to be a huge growth factor from here on out, because I think if we all were doing virtual, we saw ourselves and we were starting to pick ourselves apart on a Zoom meeting, which we're trying to listen to and be attentive to during work or whatnot, or whatever we did on there. And we're realizing, man, I could really use a little bit of TLC here. So my question is, since we do have a national or international audience, let's say they can't make it to your brick and mortar. Let's say they never in Georgetown, never in San Antonio, Austin. For a lot of you guys, and some of you who are joining are right in that wheelhouse, and you can go see Megan, you can get a consult. I know that you have some home care products too. And I think that really separates you from going to an HEB, because the HEB is big in Texas. For those of you who don't know what an HEB is, it's like a Kroger or an Aldi. It's a grocery store. How's that? And, you have things that are 10 steps above even stuff out there that's even in the commercial market. So, can they order specifically as treatment, or would you do a consult with them virtually and then ship it to them, or how would that work?
Well, we do have a shopping cart on our novitaspa.com, and there are videos on there. But that's something that actually I am going to Elizabeth, my producer, so to speak, and graphic artist, we had a meeting before this viewing. I mean, this taping, and that's something we just started discussing about going in and starting to do more videos that we can get on the website to share what we're talking about today, because it's really important. The other thing is, if somebody is interested, contact me, and I'm going to start doing some Zoom trainings for groups, because I can do that easily and share more in-depth information. So absolutely, just share your information on the website and we'll get back to you with that. But the point I want to share with what you just asked is, because you can be all over the world, but what I want you guys to know, that there is a difference between, and you mentioned HEB, which is a Texas chain, and that's Harold E. Butts, I think is his name. But you have to understand that there's a difference between products. It's very important to understand this. I learned this years ago when I worked at Alcon. What was the difference between those products and something else? And this is many, many, many years ago. It's quality of ingredients, science and research, and how a product is put together, meaning the formula. But the best analogy I have is a chocolate cake for everybody, because most of us have eaten a chocolate cake a time or two, right? Have you, Mr. Storm?
A lot.
A lot. Yeah. So you can get Sara Lee frozen. You can get Entenmann's in a box, or a box in the grocery, or your grandma's recipe. They're all chocolate cakes. What sets them apart? Quality of ingredients, science and research, how they're put together. So Sara Lee there, she could be frozen for a couple of years. She had to be, the formula had to be created that she would stand the test of time while she was frozen and be fresh as a daisy when she, came, thawed out. So when you go to, you mentioned hyaluronic acid, which holds 1,000 times its weight in water, very large molecule. That's why it's a very hydrating, as I said earlier, probably the most hydrating ingredient on the planet, because it's so large and chubby, and it holds that weight, and it holds the other ingredients with it. But just because it says hyaluronic acid, you can walk in Sally's. I think there's Sally's stores all over the world. You can walk into a Sally and see hyaluronic acid, and it's $12.99. And then you can go into Neiman Marcus and get it for, La Prairie for $350. And my product, which is very moderately priced, what's the difference? Quality of ingredients, science and research, how it's put together. Product in Neiman Marcus you're paying dearly for that packaging and the advertising, and then the shelf space in Neiman Marcus. So it's all of those factors. So I have been working, when I left Alcon and started my own business, I went to a lab that was working in R&D, research and development, with glycolic acid, because it was so new. But this was a lab that only manufactured products for aesthetics, skincare products, meaning they weren't making shampoos and they weren't making dog food, or they weren't, only aesthetics. So this was their wheelhouse. And the chemist that developed Glycolic, my first brand, for me, who worked for that lab, has his own business, and he has been my chemist all of these years. And he is a true, not only pioneer, but he is a biochemist in the aesthetic world. So it's quality of ingredients, science and research, how a product is put together. I'm not saying they're inferior, but you're not going to get the results that you will with something that has high concentration. So we have a product, for instance, called Air Supply. Air Supply, a drenching hydration booster, very high concentration of hyaluronic acid, very high concentration, proprietary information to share the percentage. But the point is that it's a very high concentration. But it also has a bio-Swiss extract called Revitolin that adds greater oxygenation and respiration to the cellular structure. Hence, it's called Air Supply. So each and every product is manufactured with care, love, but the most quality ingredients, from botanicals to, which are more, from a natural position, to a medical grade, pharmaceutical grade ingredient. So
I've had some people ask me while you're I'm looking at the comments coming through right now, and they're asking, okay, so where are we going to see you? Yes, you are going to see Megan, and you can come meet her at the show October 29th in Moody Gardens.
Yes.
I didn't mention before, yes, Novita Spa is one of our exclusive silver sponsors. As a matter of fact, she will be there with probably some of her products and be able to get a chance to meet her face to face, but more importantly, find out why. You mentioned ingredients, and I want to touch back on this for a second. Anything can have hyaluronic acid in it. And what I have found in food is if it's something that is processed, just because it has low amounts of sugar, you find out what the first, second, and third ingredient in. And I think order, when you look at the ingredients, has a huge role in how of a proprietary mix that is and makes it effective. Yes. So if I went to, let's just say, a store, Ulta, Sally's, H-E-B, doesn't really matter. I've seen things and I look at the back of the label and it has hyaluronic acid, but it's one of the last ingredients, which doesn't mean it has the same concentration it does. It's something that's specifically formulated at a higher end product. So can you speak to that? Because I do believe that yours is more of a finely tuned machine. I think about getting from point A to point B with a Honda or a Ferrari. A Ferrari is going to get there much more stylishly, but much more efficiently and faster if you really want to use what's in it, like called the engine. So they're a higher performing vehicle. And I think that with your products, because I've seen what's in them, I did my research, yours are more a higher level and efficient in performing because of the level of ingredients that you have in the proprietary mix that you use. Am I correct?
100%. 100%. Like you said about, I call that sprinkling it in for marketing. Putting that at the, like you said, the last ingredient, or one of the last ingredients. The other thing about the ingredient deck, as it's called, is that I take very seriously the quality of active ingredients. It's like grandma's recipe for chocolate cake, meaning that to know where it's from, the grade it is, and as I said, the quality of it. But the other dynamic of the ingredient story, let's just call it that, is I've been manufacturing these products for a long time. As I said, I started out with Glycolic. I built that brand. The lab that I mentioned earlier bought that. I ran it contractually for them for a couple of years. Then they were bought out. I said, bye-bye now, and started my own business again in 97 and started Novita. Novita, most people say Novita. It's okay. I don't care. Just call us whatever you call us. But it is an Italian word. It means new birth, new life, always something new. So my job, back to that Evolve officer, is that when something needs to be changed, I'm not afraid to say to my manufacturer, my chemist, we need to look at this. So when now you hear, it's just like hyaluronic, like you said, Storm, but now you hear the term clean beauty. I don't know if any of you guys who are watching this, I'm sure some of you have, but back in the 90s, the word botanical, then organic. If you go onto YouTube, by the way, I also, I'm pivoting here. I'm going to restart my podcasting, but it was called Unique Leaders Live. You can go on YouTube and find all the old YouTube, all the Unique Leaders Live. Well, maybe a year ago, I interviewed a very famous chemist. He's Indian, a little hard to hear him or understand him, but Lokesh Jain is his name. Lokesh. He's from India. And I specifically wanted him to come on because he gives the best, unfortunately, hard to understand him, but the best explanation of this word organic. And so all of these terms are so marketing derivative and oriented, just like you said about the positioning of the ingredient. So back in the day when I started Glycolic specifically and then evolved to Novita, the word botanical was the big thing, botanical. Well, where does it come from? I mean, you can have meaning it's not going to be from your garden. Let's just say that. So it's really, again, I'm back to the broken record, quality of ingredients, science and research, how it's put together. So back in 2013, I said to my chemist, we need to take out parabens. Now, parabens are a preservative. So you want something to be preserved. You don't want it to be sitting in the shelf without have a preservative in it. Otherwise, you need to keep it in your refrigerator. But it was getting a bad rap. So whenever something is negative, I look at it and look at it hard. The other was lauryl sulfate. Lauryl sulfate is soap. So phthalates. I mean, these are all ingredients that are not going to hurt you if you had it in a large quantity, yes, but why even go there? So we went, and this was a lot of work, to go back to the drawing board and take these formulas that people loved for years, and you saw great results, but taking these ingredients out and then substituting them with ingredients that weren't controversial, that did the job, but oftentimes would shift the formula. So we had to do a lot of tweaking and a lot of work. So I hope that answered your question, but you have to align yourself with a company that you know and that you trust. And we're not a fly-by-night. We've been manufacturing products for years, and with the same company, meaning I don't own the manufacturing, but this company, they actually manufacture, warehouse, and fulfill for me, and I'm the only person they do that for because I'm like part of the family. So that's a very important piece too, to look at the longevity, and the efficacy of the products, and the reviews, testimonies. All of those types of things are important.
And I know we only have you for a few more minutes, but I think you encapsulated this beautifully. And here's what I'd say. Anything that's mass produced and cheaply made is typically retailed and
Right.
marked up. And so you could go get it for $20 at a store, or if it's beautifully packaged and you have a name brand like Neiman, Nordstrom, which they'll upcharge everything else. And they have to have preservatives because it's being marketed to millions of people. I think, and this is what I love about Novita. Did I say that correctly?
Perfect. Novita, Novita, anything you want to call it.
Novita. I like Novita better. We're going to go with that.
Well, it has a high A, that accent over the A, but
Yeah,
Novita.
yes. And I love the Italian, form of that. And I know that goes, really deeply with your roots. I would just say that if you've put that kind of love and research into what goes in there, as well as what doesn't, and you can get more of a specific boutique style audience,
right,
you're going to get a higher level of efficiency and quality out of what you're buying, as opposed to something that's packaged, sitting on a shelf. It goes out to millions of places because they have to duplicate it and replicate it, and they have no idea when it's going to be consumed. So that's very much like fresh fruit. I would much rather have organic fresh fruit than I would something that's sprayed with pesticides and preservatives to wait to get to a store and then let it sit for a week and it finally starts to go bad. I like the stuff that's fresh. And I think a lot of times when it comes to our skin, that's the one thing that can be neglected. And if we do overlook it with the quote commercial or mass marketed products, we think it's going to work miracles, but it doesn't. I've seen the way that you have taken time to do the research, to do the love, and to do these things to make sure that you're producing something that's of the highest level to benefit you the most. And I think that's where your bang for the buck comes from, because you're not over the top in that Nordstrom type price point. You're in something that is going to get the most for your money. So,
and I've worked hard at keeping the price point where it is, because I feel very strongly that, like you just said, that everyone can afford this, that they can use it and work with, and have results, because you will see results very quickly, regardless of, from an aging position, anti-aging to acne, rosacea, and so forth. But I do want to share one thing before we leave is about, and you touched on it here, is about a regenerative, meaning stem cells. And we don't have time to really go into it. We'll do a whole show on this before the event in October. But the most important thing is when you're on the website, the novitaspa.com, there's a lot of information about regenerative stem cell. And most of you guys are in the health and wellness arena. And there's a lot of not only misinformation, but pieces to that if you have any interest in that, I am passionate about this. And so DM me, as Storm said, on Instagram. I'll get back to you. We can talk about it. You could be wherever, but I'll guide you to where you can actually go and have, and or fly into Austin. We'll have fun. Come and visit us here. So we've been doing stem cell regenerative therapy since 2019, over 250 patients with a myriad of needs and great results. So I welcome you all to help you with any question, but also to facilitate your need.
When you mention regenerative stem cells, I think a lot of what we don't realize is when we go to the gym, we're tearing down our bodies. And, we are susceptible to injury the more we push, right? That's in any sport, that's in anything that you do. And I have seen regenerative stem cell therapy on that leading edge. And I think that's going to be a very common word in our vocabulary, especially for athletes. So for those of you who are watching this, Megan definitely has the in on that. And she's going to be someone who we're going to bring you back, if that's okay. We could have a whole segment just about that alone. So we could really deep
100%.
dive into that. So Megan, I really enjoyed today. I'm really glad that we got a chance to do this. So what would you say would be the easiest way to get in contact with you?
I would say two ways. One is to DM on Instagram. I really do follow that and respond. And the other would be to just send an email through the website. And I respond to all of those as well. That way we capture your information too. That's a good way to do it. And we'll put you on our newsletter, which we do weekly. So those would be the two ways.
Novitaspa.com, MeganDimartino.com, and official Megan Dimartino on Instagram. Are we correct?
Amen. That's it.
Well, Megan, I'm super excited to partner with you. I know that, when we had a discovery call, I knew that this might be a good fit, and hopefully will be a good fit for you. I know there's going to be some people who probably reach out, and you are someone who I fully trust and really enjoy talking to, but also see what you're doing. And you're doing a lot of the things that people behind the scenes wouldn't even think about doing. And that's what makes you unique. But that's also what makes you the industry leader in every single service and treatment that you have available in your spa. So I just have to say thank you again, and very much look forward to having you down at the end of October 29th to be specific.
Well, thanks so much. And everyone, do not hesitate to contact me. Love to chat with you. Love to communicate, and be blessed.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Megan Dimartino. That's what we're going to call you from now on. I think that's got a nice ring to it. But for those of you who are watching, I know that tonight is the last night for early registration. We will go into regular registration as of May 1, and the price increase per class is going to be $25, as you guys know. So you can feel free and continue to register on stormclassic.com, as we got a little mini burst of athletes. Megan, I think you're going to really like some of the athletes that we bring. And I think that you're going to really enjoy the conversation too.
Absolutely. And I'm recruiting some of my athlete friends, not just from Texas, but other areas, to join us.
It's going to be a blast, and I cannot wait. This is going to be a very special event, and so glad you're a part of it. And for those of you who do follow Megan, feel free and ask her any questions, even if you're not sure if it's a good question or a bad question. There's no such thing.
No such thing.
You and I, Jinx, you owe me a Coke. How's that? Do we do Jinx anymore?
I don't know, but pinky swear.
Well, guys and gals, thank you. Megan, thank you so much. Tell all of your team thank you for allowing us to borrow you, as I know you're extremely busy. And I hope you have a great weekend. And we're going to be back same time, same place next Friday. We'll look forward to seeing all of you on episode 48 of the Friday Fitcast.